Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 5 and chapter 7. So, this week, I've got a new little pen here, and I'm keen to try it. This week, we have this brief agenda video, and we have a video for chapter 7. And I have to admit, I might try to break chapter 7 videos up into two videos so I don't run out of steam midway that I seem to have been doing recently. And then we've also got a supplementary video that I thought you might be interested in, but it's supplementary and certainly not obligatory. Okay, so as far as assignments due, you have assignment number 7 due on the publisher's website, due on Sunday, October the 4th, and that corresponds to this week's chapter 7. And then the next assessment due is the midterm, and that is on Thursday, October the 15th. And I mentioned last week that we'll have two sittings for the exam because we have both full-time and part-time students in the class. And by default, I'm just going to assume that everyone is planning to write it in the afternoon sitting. But if you want to write it in the evening, then simply let me know. Send me an email by Friday, October the 2nd, saying that you prefer to write in the evening, so that when I make contact with the campuses, I can let them know how many students they expect in both the afternoon and the evening. Okay, and then after that, then you have quiz number 2 due by Sunday, October 18th, so just after Thanksgiving, and that covers chapters 3, 7, and 8. Okay, so this week we're off to chapter 7, and chapter 7 deals with, it's called Consumer Choice. It deals with the microeconomic perspective on how consumers make decisions for what to purchase and what to consume. So I thought to help put this view that's presented in the textbook in a bit of context, I thought I'd try to give you a second perspective of some of the same subject matter, but from another perspective of another economics perspective. So the first view is presented largely in chapter 7. So this is the microeconomic view. It's a model-based approach. It's a theory-based approach. And basically what microeconomists say is that humans consume products in order to satisfy our wants. And they assume that humans have this built-in, infallible calculator that calculates total and marginal utility corresponding to the different quantities of products that we consume. And then the consumer selects the optimal set of products and the optimal quantity of each product by doing this calculation and deciding on the quantities of a particular product where the marginal utility divided by the unit price of that product equals the marginal utility per unit price on all the other products. That's the view that we look at this week in the majority of chapter 7. So at the tail end of chapter 7, there's a second view presented about how consumers make choices, and it's the view of another branch of economics known as behavioral economics. And so this other branch of economics, it is called behavioral economics, but if we wanted to give it another name, we would probably call it something like psychological economics. And what behavioral economics is, it's what happens to economics when psychologists take the wheel of the economics bus and drive the bus off-road or off-highway. So I thought I'd just give you a brief overview of this distinction between behavioral economics and traditional economics. So to me, there's a bit of an analogy between traditional economics and behavioral economics with ancient astronomy versus modern astronomy. So about 2,400 years ago, one of the ancient Greek philosophers, Aristotle, said that planets, geez, I have a spelling mistake here, planets, not plants, planets have a circular orbit. And why do planets have a circular orbit? Well, Aristotle says that a sphere is a perfect shape. I don't know why it's perfect. I guess it's because every point on the circle is equidistant from the center, but I really don't know. But anyways, he associated this concept of the perfect shape with the orbit of planets, the Sun, Mars, Venus, and whatever other planets they were familiar with 2,400 years ago. And then about 400 years ago, in the 1500s and early 1600s, modern scientists, modern astronomers, were a little bit skeptical about this circular orbit of planets. And so these modern scientists, they said, why don't we actually look at planets to see what shape their orbit takes? And when they actually took a look at what shape these orbits took, they discovered that they have an elliptical orbit. So it's sort of roundish. Doesn't have any corners in it, so it's sort of like a circle in that way, but it's actually elliptical, not circular. And that was discovered by a German a scientist by the name of Kepler, which you may recall from physics class in grade 10 or 11 or 12 or whenever you study that kind of stuff. So the point is, we have this ancient theoretical view on the shape of planetary orbits, and the theoretical view is that the planets have a circular orbit, and we have this modern-based, observational-based approach, and they determine that, in fact, planets have an elliptical orbit. So we have this contrast between theory and observation. So we have that same kind of distinct approaches in economics today. We have the traditional theoretical approach of micro and macroeconomics, and then we have this observational-based approach of behavioral economics. And as you'll see, the behavioral approach does not assume that we have this innate utility calculator that we use when we make decisions on what to buy and how much of each stuff to buy. So I have a brief, no, I shouldn't say brief, supplementary video. Somebody tells me it's about 17 minutes long. Maybe it's only 12, I can't remember. Anyways, it's a supplementary video that's a presentation from one of the leaders of behavioral economics. And I would kind of characterize this different perspective on how humans make decisions. I would kind of draw an analogy with a polar bear swim. So we know that, some cities in Canada, like I think Vancouver is kind of famous for its polar bear swim on January the 1st. We know that in Canada we have winter, and it's cold in winter, and if we're going to go swimming in Canada on January 1st, the water's going to be quite cold. And we kind of think that the only people who actually take that kind of participate in that kind of endeavor is probably a bit of a nutcase. Anyways, I would kind of characterize this behavioral approach to economics to be like a polar bear swim. So you might not want to take this polar bear swim in the middle of your term, because if you take a look at this behavioral approach, it might create a bit of confusion in your mind about how economics works. Because we're about midterm now, and you're probably getting into the theory in the book, and you're probably starting to piece together all these little pieces, and you're seeing how they're all related, and it's theoretical and everything's consistent. And then along comes these behavioral economists that kind of say, that's not the way the world is. Anyways, I thought I would bring this to your attention in case you were interested in seeing a different perspective. And plus, it is mentioned at the end of chapter 7, but it doesn't explain it terribly well. Anyways, if you're bold enough to take a polar bear swim and you're bold enough to maybe risk your risk a bit of a confusion about how economics works, you would probably be interested in this video. You probably won't understand all of it because it does contain some technical language in certain parts. But even though you may not understand all of it completely, you will probably get a pretty good sense of how of this difference between the behavioral and the traditional approach to economics. And it relates to how we make decisions. This particular video relates to how we make decisions, so it ties into chapter 7. Anyways, so that's it for this week, and we'll see you in chapter 7. Oops. Oh, it didn't stop. Stop. Oh, I got the wrong thing.